Hi everybody, so this is a short video about using a block in a chair class. So if you've watched the other video, you'll know that this is a block. It's about 12 by 8, less than 2 inches thick, and this is a brick shaped prop. We call that a brick, we call this a block. It's a very different shape, very different thickness. There are a lot of these on the market, or slightly bigger than this, that are being sold as blocks. If it's not a specialist yoga company, just a sports company or high street store, they may sell something just slightly bigger than this as a block. And where it might technically be a block, this is what a yoga teacher would mean as a block. And if they recommend that you get one of these, then something like this is not going to work. It's not going to do what you want it to do. So we use these mainly for under our feet at the beginning and the end of our practice if we're going to stay in our chair. So when we come to our chair, I'm only 5'1", so if you're a lot taller than me, you may not need one. But when I'm sitting in a chair with bare feet, this is a typical size chair that we'd be using, my heels don't come comfortably to the floor. There's a bit of a gap there, and that means that the weight of my legs is being pulled down because they're not supported, and that's going to pull on my lower back. And that'll be fine for a little while. If you've got back issues, you really don't want that. And it's an amazing the amount of difference it can make when we put something under our feet, completely take the weight off. And that's a lovely supported posture. So yoga isn't about torture, by the way. We support ourselves, we get us the best return from little effort as possible. So if I place that block under my feet, and it's big enough so that all of my feet are completely supported, then the weight of my legs is being supported by the block. They're not pulling down, they're not tilting my pelvis forward, they're not pulling on my lower back. So that allows my back to come up nice and tall without that weight, the weight of my legs being pulled. So we can sit up nice and tall and centre here, and we can return to this at the end if we don't want to come down to the floor for our relaxation. We could treat the whole thing as a meditation and stay in our chair. That's completely fine if you don't want to come down to the floor at all. Now, some of you will come to my classes, and we will occasionally use the block to help strengthen the tendons at the sides of the knees and the muscles in the sides of the legs, the adductors on the inside of the legs. And we can do that by placing the block between the knees, having the ankles underneath the knees, and we can squeeze the block as we exhale. So we release as we inhale and squeeze the block together. Now the blocks have a little bit of a give in, so you must take the wrapper off. I've seen some people use blocks with the plastic wrapper still on. They don't have as much give then because the air can't flow in and out. So you must take the wrapper off to use it. Now, it may not look like I was doing anything there, but I was squeezing the block gently as I exhaled. Now, of course, when we do the muscles inside the legs, we need to do the muscles on the outside of the legs. So we will also take the legs out, try and push the legs out while stopping them with the hands. So we'll do that in class if you join me. Now, if you have one of these cushions, I don't know whether you can see there, but it's shaped. It's a lumbar support cushion. If you have back issues, hip issues, and you have one of these, bring it to class. They're fabulous. So not only can you sit on one of these on your chair to give you a bit of padding, if you do come down to the floor, they are really useful. Now, of course, the more that you lift your hips, the more that you're going to need that block under your feet. So if you do need that extra bit of padding in class on a hard chair, obviously we're using plastic chairs because they're easy to clean because of COVID, then make sure that you also have something under your feet. A flat block is ideal. You can just bring a blanket to put on your chair as a little bit of a padding or a thin cushion, but one of these is really useful. So when we come down to the floor, if we come down to the floor at the end of the class, we may have our legs on the chair. This is optional. You don't need to do anything I suggest in class. Many people in my classes don't do this. They stay in their chair. Coming down to the floor isn't something that they would want to do. But there are a few that would like to come down to the floor and don't want to sit in a chair. Sitting in a chair for 45 minutes isn't right for them either. So to do this, we're going to bring the bottom as close to the chair as we can. Have your cushion or your block handy. And then we're going to come down and place our calves on the chair. Now here you might notice that my chin is lifting up towards the ceiling, so we can use a block here underneath the head so that my neck is beautifully aligned with my spine. Now if we have our cushion, we can use that too, and that's a really nice comfortable support there. Now here ideally the knees are above the hips, and that completely takes the weight out of the legs, so your lower back is, the weight is really taken out of the lower back. It's completely supported, and it's a wonderful position if you have back issues. So again, that is completely optional. You don't need to do that, but it's a lovely way to rest your back at the end of a practice. And when we come out, we make sure that we roll to one side and take a few breaths on one side before we come up to sitting. So I hope that helped you realise that we use blocks in certain ways, and if you're going to join us in a chair class, then have a little experiment with bare feet. Do your heels reach the floor? Do you need to invest in a block? And the other thing that we'll need in any class is a yoga mat, a sticky mat. Make sure it's a non-slip one, as we're often working on wooden floors, so we have these plastic chairs and we move our weight in one direction, our chair can go in the other. So we always have at least two legs of the chair on the mat so that it can't slip away from us. The last thing that we want to be doing is falling on the floor. So thank you for joining me here for this little video, and I hope to see you again in class soon. Thank you everybody.